The Snake Plant Survival Guide. Master this low-light indoor legend, even if you've killed plants before. Hello, plant lovers. Welcome back to Earthly Delights, your digital sanctuary for houseplants, garden serenity, and everyday green magic. If you're someone who craves the calm of nature but lives in a fast-paced apartment, if you dream of lush corners but worry you have black thumb energy, or if you just want one plant you can't kill, then today's story was made for you. Let me tell you about a plant that changed everything for me. Years ago, I was juggling work, stress, and a tiny dim apartment. Every plant I touched died until I met the snake plant. The plant that didn't just survive my neglect, it thrived. And today, I want to show you how it can do the same for you. This isn't just a tutorial, it's a journey into one of the toughest, most forgiving indoor plants ever known. Whether your space is dark, drafty, too dry, or too busy, you're about to meet a silent warrior that purifies your air, demands very little, and quietly reminds you that growth doesn't have to be dramatic to be beautiful. We're going to talk care, placement, styling, even emotional connection. And trust me, there are things about this plant you've never heard before. So grab a cup of tea, settle into your favorite cozy spot, and let's dive into the ultimate survival guide for the one plant that loves you back, no matter what. Oh, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join our growing Earthly Delights community. This is where we grow together. Part 1. Choosing the right snake plant. Not all are equal. Let's begin where every plant journey should start, choosing the right one. Now, I know many of you watching today are busy people. Some of you live in high-rise apartments with filtered sunlight, some in suburban homes trying to balance kids, work, and watering schedules. You might be a beginner who's still afraid of overwatering, or someone who's been burned before by those easy care plant labels that turned out to be anything but easy. That's why picking the right variety of snake plant matters more than you think. You've probably seen the classic Sansevieria laurenti, with its tall, upright green blades and creamy yellow edges. It's bold, architectural, and perfect if you love a clean, structured look. Then there's the Zylanica, or what I call the camouflage warrior. Deep greens with wavy, silvery patterns that feel more relaxed and organic. It's great if your space leans cozy or bohemian. But here's something most plant stores won't tell you. Some snake plant varieties reflect your personality and lifestyle more than others. If you're drawn to soft, compact shapes and love the idea of filling smaller shelves or corners, the Kirky is your match. And if you're a minimalist, the cylindrical-leaved Sansevieria cylindrica, sometimes braided or fan-shaped, is your sculptural dream. Whichever one calls to you, pay close attention to the leaves. Look for rich color, a waxy sheen, and no mushy spots or black markings. And don't be afraid to pass on the flowering ones. A blooming snake plant might look exciting, but it's often a sign the plant's spent its energy, and you want it thriving, not recovering. Coming up next, we'll talk about those crucial first days at home, and the biggest mistake even experienced plant parents still make. Don't miss it. Part 2. First days at home, let it settle. So you've chosen your perfect snake plant. Congratulations. That moment when you carry it through your front door for the first time, it's more than just decorating. It's the start of a quiet companionship. But before you rush to repot or rearrange your shelves, let me share a little secret that seasoned indoor gardeners swear by. Don't do anything yet. You see, the biggest mistake new plant parents make is assuming that repotting right away is an act of love. But with the snake plant, it's the opposite. This plant thrives on patience. Its roots grow slowly, and its sense of home takes time to establish. So when you bring it home, resist the urge to immediately upgrade it into that beautiful ceramic pot you've had waiting. Instead, let it rest. Keep it in the nursery pot for a few months, sometimes even up to a year. This isn't neglect, it's respect. Snake plants actually like being root-bound. When the roots hug the pot tightly, it creates the perfect internal balance for healthy growth. In fact, moving them too soon into a large container can lead to trouble. Why? Because the soil stays wet for too long, and this plant, as we'll learn later, hates lingering moisture. Now, if you do eventually repot, make the new container just one size bigger, not 3. Choose breathable materials like terracotta, which help excess water evaporate, and always make sure the pot has drainage holes. Water that gets trapped, that's where root rot begins. And here's a pro tip for those who can't wait to add style. Place the plastic nursery pot inside your decorative container. That way, you get the best of both worlds, fashion and function, without shocking your plant. Up next, we'll explore one of the most misunderstood parts of keeping a snake plant: where you place it. Trust me, location isn't just about aesthetics, it can make or break your plant's future. Let's go there. Part 3. The perfect spot. Light, air, and room to grow. Now that your new green companion is settling into its temporary pot, the next big question is, where should it live? This part, surprisingly, trips up even the most enthusiastic plant lovers. We get so focused on what looks good, we forget to ask what the plant actually needs. If you've been told snake plants thrive in dark corners, let me clear something up. Yes, they can survive in low light, but survival isn't the same as thriving. Sure, you can tuck one in a hallway or an office cubicle with no window and it'll hang on, but over time, the colors fade, the leaves stretch out thin and tired, and growth nearly halts. It's like feeding your plant crumbs when it craves a full meal. What snake plants truly love is indirect light. A north-facing window is ideal, or anywhere the sun is gentle, not blasting the leaves with harsh rays all day. In homes with lots of light, you'll notice the difference fast. Richer color, sturdier leaves, and even the occasional baby shoot pushing through the soil. And here's something our Earthly Delights family often asks: can I put it in my bedroom? Absolutely. In fact, it's one of the best spots. Snake plants don't just absorb CO2, they release oxygen at night, making them the perfect nighttime companion for cleaner, calmer air. Plus, their upright form brings a soothing energy to the space you sleep in. One thing to watch out for: drafts. If you place your plant near a door or window that's often opened, especially in winter, it can struggle with temperature shocks. But don't panic. Snake plants are famously resilient. A shift in position is usually all it takes to make things right again. Up next, we're diving into the #1 reason these miracle plants still fail: watering. Yes, even the toughest houseplant has one fatal flaw. And it's time we talked about it. Part 4. Watering, the silent killer of snake plants. Let's talk about the one thing that makes or breaks a snake plant more than anything else: watering. Now, if you've ever loved a plant too hard, watering it every other day, misting it constantly, thinking you're being nurturing, you're not alone. In fact, overwatering is the silent trap that catches so many well-meaning plant parents, especially with snake plants. Here's the truth: this is a plant built for survival. It evolved in dry, rocky environments. Its tall, thick leaves are nature's water tanks, designed to store moisture for weeks. So every time we water it too soon, we're working against its biology. And unlike other houseplants that might give us a dramatic droop as a cry for help, the snake plant suffers in silence until suddenly, it doesn't. The first warning signs are sneaky. You might notice a black spot near the tip of a leaf or a bit of mushiness near the base. If you touch it and it feels soft, almost slimy, that's not a hydration boost. That's the early stage of root rot or a fungal infection caused by too much moisture. And yes, that infection can spread. So here's what to do instead: wait. Seriously, let the soil become bone dry between waterings. I'm talking desert dry. Depending on your climate and time of year, that could mean watering once every 3 to 4 weeks. Maybe even less. And when you do water, make it deep but infrequent. Let it soak through, and be sure there's no water pooling at the bottom of the pot. If you've already run into trouble, don't worry. Cut off the affected leaves completely and move your plant to a brighter spot. Give it time. It will recover if you let it dry and breathe. In the next part, we're going to dig into the soil itself, because believe it or not, your potting mix could be working against you without you even realizing it. Let's make sure the roots have a home they can thrive in. Part 5. Soil secrets. Drainage is everything. Let's be honest, soil isn't the most glamorous topic when it comes to indoor plants. But for snake plants, it's the unsung hero. You could pick the prettiest pot, place it in the perfect light, and follow all the watering rules. But if the soil isn't right, the roots will slowly start to suffer, and you won't even know it until it's too late. Here's why. Snake plants don't just prefer dry conditions. They absolutely need excellent drainage. Their roots are incredibly sensitive to soggy environments, and unfortunately, The average bag of potting mix from the store? It's often way too dense. It holds on to moisture like a sponge. Perfect for thirsty tropicals, but a recipe for disaster when it comes to your Sansevieria. So what's the solution? You need to lighten the load. Mix in materials like perlite, pumice, or coarse sand. These ingredients help create those crucial air pockets that let water flow through quickly, keeping the roots dry, healthy, and breathing. Now, if you're someone who loves sleek modern design and self-watering pots, you might be wondering, can snake plants survive in those? The answer is yes, but only if you're smart about it. The key is the soil. Self-watering systems are constantly pulling moisture upward, so if your mix is too absorbent, your plant will sit in damp conditions 24/7. That's where things go wrong. Instead, use a sharply draining soil blend and make sure the pot's wick system isn't overwhelming your plant. And for my fellow minimalists out there, here's a trick I use at home. Plant your snake in a simple plastic nursery pot with drainage holes and place that inside your favorite decorative container. That way, you can lift it out, check moisture levels, and empty excess water with ease. It's low maintenance, it's clean, and it works. Coming up, we're going to shift focus to your plant's environment, the air, the energy, the space it lives in. Because as much as soil matters, placement is power. Let's find the perfect home inside your home. Part 6. Long-term care, cleaning, feeding, and styling. Now that your snake plant is resting in the right soil and soaking in the perfect amount of light, it's time to talk about long-term care, the little things that over time make a big difference. Let's start with something most people overlook, cleaning the leaves. It might sound unnecessary, but snake plants gather dust fast. That dust blocks sunlight, slows down photosynthesis, and dulls the natural sheen of those beautiful upright blades. Once a month, or whenever you notice that faded look, take a soft, damp cloth and gently wipe each leaf. You're not just cleaning, you're letting the plant breathe. Think of it as a small act of care that says, "I see you." Now on to feeding. Here's where many overdo it. Snake plants are not heavy feeders. In fact, less is more. During the active growing months, spring through early fall, a gentle, diluted liquid fertilizer 2 to 3 times a year is plenty. And make sure it's balanced. No need for anything fancy. What you're doing is offering support, not force feeding. And if you ever see the tips of your leaves browning or yellowing suddenly, that might be fertilizer burn. Ease back. Your plant will thank you. As for styling, snake plants are incredibly versatile. Their tall sculptural form works in corners, entryways, desktops, even on bedroom floors. I've seen them styled alone for drama or grouped with other pots to create a layered, jungle-like feel. Try elevating them on a stand or nestling them among books and candles on a shelf. Their shape is naturally elegant, so you don't need to do much. This is the stage where your relationship with the plant deepens. You'll start to notice when it's thirsty without sticking a finger in the soil. You'll catch the subtle lean of new growth. It becomes less about rules and more about rhythm. And next, if you're ready for it, we're going to talk about expansion. That's right. When your snake plant starts growing pups and getting bushy, you'll want to know how to divide it, style it, and maybe even multiply it into your next favorite gift. Let's get our hands a little dirtier. Part 7. Propagation and Pruning. Grow your own jungle. There's a quiet joy in watching your snake plant thrive so much that it begins to outgrow its pot. You'll notice tiny shoots poking through the soil, like little green promises. And that's when it hits you. This plant isn't just surviving, it's multiplying. And now you get to become part of that process. Let's start with propagation, which is just a fancy way of saying, let's make more plants from this one. The easiest method? Division. When your snake plant becomes full and lush, gently remove it from its pot and look for natural separations, those clusters of leaves growing from their own roots. With clean hands or a sharp tool, you can split those off and pot them individually. It's like unbundling a bouquet, each part still full of life. You can also propagate by leaf cuttings. Take a healthy leaf, cut it into a few sections, and let the ends dry for a couple days. Then place them in well-draining soil and wait. This method takes patience, sometimes weeks or even months, but it's deeply rewarding, especially if you're the nurturing type. Now what about pruning? Maybe one leaf is damaged or growing awkwardly and throwing off the look of your plant. Here's the trick. Don't just cut it halfway. That'll leave an unsightly scar that never truly heals. Instead, cut it all the way down to the base, near the soil line. That keeps your plant looking neat and healthy. Some people feel nervous pruning, like they're doing something wrong. But trust me, it's like editing a story. You're helping the main character shine. And sometimes you'll find that removing one tired or faded piece lets the rest of the plant thrive even more. And the best part? Every new snake plant you propagate carries the DNA of the original. Like a green legacy. Whether you keep them for yourself or gift them to someone who needs a little more calm in their life, each one is a living reminder. Growth happens slowly but steadily, and always in the right conditions. Up next, we'll explore what to do when your plant starts sending distress signals. Because yes, even tough plants have bad days. Let's talk pests, problems, and how to restore balance when things go wrong. Part 8. Pest and Problem Solving. When tough plants still suffer, even the hardiest warriors have their weak moments. And yes, that includes the snake plant. While it's famously resilient, there are rare times when you'll look over and something won't feel quite right. A soft leaf, a strange spot, maybe a patch of dust that doesn't wipe away. This is your plant whispering, "Help me." Let's start with pests. The good news? Snake plants have a natural defense system. Their thick, waxy cuticle makes it hard for most bugs to bite through. But occasionally, if the plant is stressed or the environment too dry, you might see intruders like mealybugs or spider mites. Mealybugs look like tiny cotton balls hiding in the leaf joints, while spider mites leave fine webs and tiny pinhole specks. If you spot them early, a gentle wipe with soapy water or a mix of neem oil can do wonders. And if things get worse, don't panic. Isolate the plant, clean it thoroughly, and give it time to bounce back. Most of the time, the problem isn't the pest itself, it's the why. Did it get too much sun? Was it sitting in water too long? Address the root cause and your snake plant will heal itself. Now let's talk about rot. If your leaves feel mushy, smell odd, or seem to collapse at the base, that's not overwatering. That's root rot. The only solution? Act fast. Remove the mushy leaves and pull out any rotted sections, roots and all. Let what remains dry out completely before replanting. And yes, it's okay to feel discouraged, but the beauty of this plant is its willingness to recover when given the chance. And sometimes the issue isn't visible at all. Maybe it just looks dull. The color is faded. Growth has stalled. This is where environment matters. Revisit the light, check for drafts, dust the leaves. Think of your plant like a mirror. It reflects the energy of the space it's in. If something feels off, don't rush to fix it with fertilizer or extra water. Just observe, adjust gently. You're not just growing leaves, you're building a relationship. Up next, we're stepping into a rare but fascinating chapter in the snake plant's story. Flowering. What it means, why it happens, and whether or not you should let it. You might be surprised. Part 9. Flowering snake plants. Should you let it happen? If you've been nurturing your snake plant for a while, one day you might spot something unexpected. A slender stalk emerging from the soil, dotted with tiny pale buds. You might blink twice and wonder, is this really happening? Yes, your snake plant is blooming. Now let's clear something up. A flowering snake plant isn't common, especially indoors. It's often a sign that your plant is mature, settled, and in just the right conditions. Bright, indirect light, a bit of stress, and yes, patience. But before you celebrate, let's talk about what this bloom really means. The flowers themselves, they're not exactly showstoppers. Small, greenish-white, sometimes with a delicate fragrance. But more often than not, they come with a surprise. Sticky sap. It can drip onto windowsills, furniture, or the leaves themselves, attracting dust and even insects. It's nature's glitter glue, and it doesn't come off easily. There's also an energetic cost. When a snake plant flowers, it redirects its energy. That stunning bloom, it's draining nutrients from the leaves and roots. And while the plant may look fine at first, over time, you might notice slower growth, a slight droop, or fading colors. It's like your plant ran a marathon. It needs recovery. So what should you do? Honestly, it's your call. Some people cherish the rare moment, snap a photo, and enjoy it while it lasts. Others, myself included, prefer to trim the flower stalk near the base as soon as it appears. Not because it's harmful, but because we want our snake plant's energy to go back into leaf growth and longevity. And here's something beautiful to consider. Some cultures believe that a blooming snake plant is a symbol of transition, that something new is about to begin. Maybe it's just a flower, or maybe it's a reminder that even in silence, growth is always happening. In our final part, we'll address a question every pet parent or curious toddler caretaker asks: is this plant safe? Let's talk about toxicity, safety tips, and how to keep everyone, plant and human, happy and healthy under the same roof. Part 10. Snake plants and your family. Safety first. As we come closer to the end of our journey with this resilient plant, there's one final, practical question that always arises, especially if your home includes curious kids or four-legged family members. Is the snake plant safe? The answer is yes, but with a little caution. Snake plants are considered mildly toxic. That means if ingested, they can cause stomach upset in pets or small children, things like nausea, vomiting, or drooling. It's not deadly, but it's definitely unpleasant. And let's be honest, most of us don't plan on eating our plants. But a cat batting at leaves or a toddler exploring the world mouth first, that's a different story. The good news is that the snake plant isn't particularly tempting. Its leaves are tough, bitter, and not very chewable. Most pets won't bother it more than once. Still, if you have a mischievous cat or a teething baby, it's wise to elevate the plant. Place it on a shelf, a tall stand, or inside a decorative basket where it's visible but out of reach. And when you repot or trim your snake plant, don't worry. Touching the leaves isn't harmful. You don't need gloves. Just wash your hands after handling, especially if you've cut into the plant. Like most tropical species, it contains natural compounds meant to protect itself, not hurt you. If a nibble ever happens, stay calm. Most reactions are mild, but when in doubt, call your vet or local poison center for advice. What matters most is knowing your space and making adjustments based on your family's needs. In truth, having houseplants, snake plants especially, isn't just about decor. It's about creating a home that breathes, that connects us with something living, growing, and deeply grounding. And with just a little awareness, it's absolutely possible to enjoy all those benefits without worry. Now, to wrap it all together, let's take a moment to reflect. You've come this far in caring for your plant, but maybe it's your plant that's been quietly caring for you. In our closing thoughts, we'll talk about what the snake plant truly represents in your home and how it's more than just greenery in a pot. A plant for every kind of home. So here we are, at the end of our journey with one of the most quietly powerful houseplants you'll ever meet. The snake plant may not demand attention. It doesn't bloom in bursts of color or twist into exotic shapes, but that's its magic. In a world that often feels loud and fast, the snake plant offers something rare: steadiness. It's the perfect companion for people who forget to water, for apartments that only get morning light, for lives filled with to-do lists, but still craving a touch of nature. Whether you're a seasoned plant parent or just getting started, this is a plant that meets you where you are and grows with you. Maybe it's just a single pot by your bed, maybe it's a row of them lining your hallway, or maybe, over time, it becomes part of your routine, a reminder that even in quiet moments, growth is always happening under the surface. At Earthly Delights, we believe that taking care of plants is never just about the plant. It's about reconnecting with nature, with your space, and with yourself. So if this video helped you feel a little more confident or inspired to start your own indoor jungle, don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and share it with someone else who might need a little green encouragement today. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and as always, keep finding beauty in the everyday.